Well, with all due respect for those individuals who think that the movement of the administration is a mistake, I think there's an inevitability to it. My own sense is that the whole sanctions regime that was established in the Kennedy administration made sense at the time, but I think the U.S. stance toward Cuba has not made sense for at least the past 20 or 30 years. Among Cuban dissidents, Yoani Sanchez, for example, is a noted Cuban dissident and blogger. She's here with us at Georgetown this year as our Yahoo Fellow, has been modestly supporting these changes, these developments, these movements toward better relations between the United States and Cuba. I think there are still going to be forces that oppose them, but I think this is an inevitability, and I think many would say that, even people that might overtly oppose it. So there may be some bumps in the road, there may be some backward steps, but I think ultimately we will be moving toward full diplomatic relations with Cuba, just a matter of time. I think the demographics, the changes in the administration, and of course the ages of Raul and Fidel Castro point in that direction.
Mark Lagon, were you surprised when President Obama made this announcement last year to begin to normalize relations with Cuba? And, you know, do you also see a sort of inevitability about it?
Well, there were murmurs in Washington that it was under discussion. I have to say I was a bit surprised that it was taken up quickly. The question is, how does the United States use it? One thing that the United States imagines is that the citizens of Cuba might have access to information on social media. But that remains in the hands of the Cuban government. And lots of dictatorships around the world have found canny ways to turn social media against civil society and, in fact, monitor civil society. So we have to see whether the United States can take advantage of increased diplomatic relations and the degree to which Congress allows commerce to increase, whether there will be, in fact, a political change. It's incumbent on the United States to try.
And this is actually one thing that Yoani Sanchez emphasized. She said, this is a good opening move, but now we have to pressure the Cuban government. There are about 100 political prisoners that are imprisoned in Cuba, to release them, to allow more open access to the internet, to allow more freedom of speech. Now that the United States is in a position to have some leverage, it makes sense to make these kinds of moves early and right now.
It's not surprising that there are some elements of the Cuban emigre community in the United States who are not in favor of the lifting of the embargo or even the creation of diplomatic relations. But there is pluralism in Cuba in the sense that people disagree about this. The very important civil society protest group, the Women in White, have come out against the lifting of the embargo and feel that this is handing a Christmas gift, as it were, to the Castro brothers. So there are differences on about what this policy ought to be.
And of course, lifting the embargo, that's more complicated because the Congress has to agree to that.
Potentially. I mean, it depends on, yes, but it depends on exactly how the president does it and what kind of exceptions are made. And there is also a role for presidential authority to be acting as the person responsible for maintaining foreign policy. So there may be some potentials for the president to act independently. I would also note one important role in this that we haven't mentioned is the Pope.
Okay.
Is that Pope Francis played a significant role as an interlocutor. And I know when we met last year, this was something we had talked about, is the potential for the Pope to play a very positive role in international affairs. And this one instance is simply one instance, but I would note that the Pope's language, the Pope's speeches, addresses on a whole host of foreign policy issues, I think have been a very positive influence in international affairs.